I'm Emily Benjamin from NHL.com, and I'm here with two NHL employees, Jen Justiniani and Aileen Barron, who have quite an amazing story to tell about kidneys. So I'm going to start with you, Aileen. Tell me about how you found out that you were having kidney issues.
So about 11 years ago now, I basically had bronchitis. I had a Z-Pak, it went away, and about 6 weeks later, I started having some issues breathing when I was playing softball. Nothing crazy, but like not being able to go at full speed. I got some, rashes on my legs. I kind of ignored it. I didn't feel bad, but it was just one of those. So I went away to a work trip. And when I came home, my mother, I was living with her at the time, she's a nurse, and I walked in the door, she goes, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You don't look like yourself." And I was like, "I got a little sick on the work trip. I've had these rashes, but like, whatever." She goes, "All right, we're gonna go get blood work." So went and got blood work, thought nothing of it. And then the next morning, she woke me up at 6:30 a.m. and said, "You're in kidney failure, we have to go to the ER." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So luckily went to the ER, Lutheran Medical Center. She worked there for 20 years, so we got right in, whatnot. And yeah, they determined my creatinine level, which is your kidney level, was like, I think at the time, probably like 7, which is bad. And we did some biopsies and whatnot, and both kidneys were completely shot, where they were functioning at about 10%. And really, they were like, we need to get this figured out. So I was admitted to the hospital, did some stuff, and then my path was basically to start dialysis later on in that year while I was preparing to look for a kidney donor.
And had you started to feel bad at this point, or were you still feeling okay?
I was not perfectly healthy. I was just ignoring a lot of things. I was 29 years old, 30 years old, so I was still working and all that stuff. But definitely saw the decline from previous. But at the time, when I started dialysis, that's kind of when I started to feel better, a little bit better, still had better appetite, all that stuff. But really the goal was just to get me to get a kidney donor. I knew that was kind of a short-term plan, so yeah.
And you start going through testing.
Yes.
What happens?
So basically the way that, we find a kidney donor, my mom's one of 11, my dad's one of 5, so kind of went to the family and said, hey, let's see if we can get tested. Fortunately, Columbia Hospital up here in New York was my home base for my nephrologist. And basically it was like, let's go get blood work. So you do blood work, and I think I had maybe 20 people then kind of just see at cousins, aunts, uncles, and came back that I had 5 matches, which is crazy, unbelievable. So my mother was a match. My stepmother was a match, so not blood related. And then my mom had 2 brothers and a sister that were a match, so 2 uncles and an aunt. And then without me really knowing that process, because they keep it really separate, like they have a transplant coordinator, I have a transplant coordinator, they don't really talk. Of course, I was getting information from my mother, but basically it came down to my mother was going to donate to me. But one of the last steps basically is to do a sonogram on the kidneys to see which one they would take. And it turned out she had like a little cyst on it. So she was unfortunately unable to donate. It wouldn't hurt her, but so at the end of the day, I didn't really know any of this was happening. She was very sad that she couldn't donate. But they went to my uncle, who was the youngest of the next 4 at the time, and he's like, yep, he did all the testing, and right away we knew, like, okay, he's gonna do it, and we scheduled the surgery, which was 10 years ago yesterday, actually, so.
And in the process, you're looking for both the youngest and healthiest kidney that you can
Yes,
find.
exactly. Yeah, the first one is a match, does it look good, and then really there's there's a score basically when they look at, are you smoker, do you have diabetes? Like you can donate a diabetic kidney because the person, if they don't have diabetes, most likely it will, regenerate. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, who is the healthiest overall? Because if you try to go get tested and they say, you've had skin cancer or something very small, they'll just be like, no, you're not a good match. So.
And what was the surgery like, and what was the aftermath?
Sure. So like I said, I had dialysis. I did peritoneal dialysis from December 1st, and then my surgery was April 9th of the following year. So I did dialysis for about 4.5 months. And then the surgery, I was admitted, morning of with my uncle pretty much, and he went in first, and then I go in about an hour later. The surgery was all of 2.5, 3 hours, which is mind-blowing to me. And then I went into recovery, and I was in my room by that evening, and I went home 3 days later. And
how did it go from there? I mean, are you feeling better? Is your health coming back? Like how does it play out for you?
Yeah, pretty much like automatically you're like, all right, like I definitely was sick before. It's one of those things where you don't really realize it. And then like appetite's back, like everything, you kind of, I was kind of, I would say back to normal within 3 weeks. Of course, there's some surgery, like just like tenderness and stuff, but I probably went back to work at the time in about 4 weeks, which I probably should have taken a little bit more time. But I wasn't able to drive for like just because of the surgery. But yeah, so pretty much like back to normal, eating regular diet. At the time, actually, because I was so sick, I had to do a renal diet, which meant you could only have basically a bottle of water a day, which cramping, like all this stuff. That was probably the worst part. And like 3 ounces of protein. Like it was a very restrictive because your kidney is like, filters through everything. So I got out of surgery and I had all the liquids waiting for me, and that was probably my favorite moment.
What did you, it's just like downing bottles of water?
Orange juice, water, ice cream, like sorbets, like stuff that like goes down to liquid. So ice, like give me everything. So
you don't know what you're going to miss until it's gone.
Yes, 100%.
And what did they tell you about what your life would be like with this donated kidney?
Back to normal.
Yeah.
Like, it was just one of those where I was a 30-year-old healthy person now. Like, of course, you go on immunosuppression, so you don't want the kidney to be rejected, your body to reject that kidney, because it is a foreign object. So, I'm on daily medication, and that's I would do infusions, which is part of my medication, but pretty much I could do, go play sports, I can, go back to work, yay. Love the NHL. But yeah, honestly, at the end of the day, like no one would ever know, that you had something once you're like fully recovered from surgery.
At what point did they talk to you about the possibility of this kidney not being viable at some point?
So the average, could be, my nephrologist may come and say I'm completely wrong on this, but the average living donor kidney is about 15 to 20 years, last 15 to 20 years. This was, again, 10 years ago. I'm sure it's evolved over time and gotten better with medications and stuff. But basically, they say, like, if your twin donates, if you're a twin and your twin donates, you have a longer period just because it's like an exact match. And then deceased donors last about 10 to 15. So there's about a 5-year gap. So I always knew, being young, being 30, I would probably need another one. Hopefully was going to be that 15 to 20 years. So pretty much I knew it was happening. So I would go, part of my regimen, like I said, was infusions. So every month I'd be up at Columbia just doing that. They do blood tests. So they were fully on top of me. And my levels were really good for the first, 7 years. If there was like signs of rejection, they would just do a biopsy on the kidney just to make sure everything was good. And I think I had 2 or 3 of those, but everything was fine. They might have adjusted medication. And then about a year ago, I would say about last August, my levels started to really spike and go a little crazy. My creatinine level started spiking a little bit. And my nurse practitioner called me after I'd done one of these tests, like the next day, just to catch up and tell me, she goes, you know what, do you have any donors ready? And I was like, what? Like, I didn't think I had to. I would say about 5 years ago, I was fortunate to be able to get on the donor list. It was one of those where my numbers weren't crazy, but they have a parameter that if your creatinine level sits here and your whatever it is, you can start gaining time on the deceased donor list. So I did have that. And then, like I said, last August, numbers started increasing. So I did get a couple of calls to say, like, to offer a deceased donor, which is also a crazy call to get. I went to a concert and I came home and I had a missed call from our transplant coordinator, and they're like, so we have this donor, this kidney, and you're a good match. Do you want to hear about it? And I was like, oh, this is the concept? Like, okay. And they're like, age, whatever it was, not smoker, and they basically have a score of like what your match is. And for someone that was young, I would look to have a score of like 75 and above. They were like, you can like wait for a really good one. Like you're not at the point where you like are going to take anything. And I think the score was like 50 or something. So they're like, not best. And then I got another call, and it was like, from Louisiana, smoker, diabetic, all that stuff. And I was like, I'm good, thanks. quick hang up. But then it was pretty much, okay, reach out to family, knowing that I had such good matches last time. Kind of just like start blood work. Like, let's see what's possible. Not immediate, but at least you'll start to have a plan. And that's kind of, what happened last year. Family started reaching out, and then my boss here at the league, who I'm very close with, basically said, what are you thinking? Like, would you be open to like opening it up to the NHL? And I am one of those people where I'm like, I'm good. Like, I have family. Like I don't want the attention. Like, but finally, him and Heidi Browning, basically the CMO, said, let's just do it. Like, what, you'll be surprised about how many people might do something. So I kind of gave them the okay, and Heidi went up to the execs and basically told them the story, and the email went out to the league of basically everyone in all 3 offices just saying, hey, this is what's happening. One of our own, is in need, and here's a form that you could fill out to see if you wanted to test. So.
Jen, I'm going to bring you in. This email drops into your inbox.
The infamous email.
What is your first reaction?
I remember reading it, and I just remember it was regarding Aileen needing a kidney. And in the old office, we worked on the same floor. And for me, it wasn't really about what it was for. It was that she just needed something, and I knew her well enough where it wouldn't be the strangest thing in the world if I signed up. Did I sign up thinking that we were going to be a match? Of course not, but it was enough of a requirement just that I knew her and she was nice, and it seemed simple as that. And I just put my name down, and the way it worked, if I remember correctly, is you're supposed to get blood work done as long as all the answers to the questions you passed with flying colors. They asked you to come to the hospital, and I was like, can I go to Quest? I didn't even want to go to the hospital. So they sent the test to my apartment. It sat in my apartment for over a month. I totally forgot about it. And I was like, I think I should probably do something about that. I did it on a Wednesday, and by Friday, I got a phone call. It went that quickly. And they were just like, it was Friday at 5 p.m. And I go, do you do this on purpose? And they do it on purpose, so you can really marinate with it and make a decision. And I mean, the second I found out we were a match, it was almost just like a light bulb went off, and it wasn't really a question of yes or no. It just felt like, of course, why wouldn't I do something like that?
So you didn't spend some time sort of thinking about whether this...
No time.
Really?
Between doing the original testing, which I think was just blood work, I think the fact that I'm O negative was just enough to make us a perfect match, which I did not know I was before this.
Really?
No idea, which is also baffling. If I had known that, no, I wouldn't have done this before, but just to have that knowledge seems important. I've had surgery before, didn't know that.
That's funny. And so how well did you know each other?
I mean, yeah, we are in the old office. We were on the same floor, different departments. You're in finance. I was in fan engagement. Yeah, I mean, we have a mutual friend, I would say, Rachel, that she was a little more outgoing, I would say, so befriended her. But yeah, I mean, Christmas parties, we'd talk and whatnot, but I wouldn't say, we didn't have each other's phone numbers.
Nope, no cell phone.
Yeah, but definitely have had conversations, but yeah, not to the extent where we were talking every day, very briefly.
How did your friends, your family react to the idea of you becoming a donor?
My mother was not shocked, but my friends were, and I was actually surprised by that, and their reactions were dramatic. Like, oh my God, what? You're gonna do that for somebody you barely know? A lot of that, I got a lot of that. But to me, it wasn't about that. They could have said a lot of things and it wouldn't have changed my mind. I think I started telling people before I was officially good to go, because it was a long process. It wasn't just, you're O negative, you're cleared. You had to do, a lot of testing was involved. So, but at that point, I was like, I'm young-ish, I'm healthy-ish. I didn't think there were gonna be a lot of roadblocks, so it felt like it was pretty much done. But yeah, I got a lot of crazy reactions.
Did you reach out to Aileen, or how did you sort of connect those
So now that
dots?
I've done it, I feel like if I could go back, I probably would have told her in advance, but I wanted to make sure before I got her hopes up that it was a done deal. And I didn't find out till a little bit around Thanksgiving that I was approved by the board, and I didn't want to get her hopes up saying, look, I'm in the process. There's still a chance something could go wrong. So I made the decision to hold off, and then I told her at some point in December.
Yeah. Yeah, which was a crazy thing in itself.
I
But
was gonna say, this email goes out. What are you feeling?
I mean, I don't like people to do, I'm very independent, and I'm just like, I'll figure it out on my own. Like, I don't ask for help. Like, I'm just, it's one of those. I mean, I have a huge family. Like, I'll definitely reach out to them, but like, nobody owes me anything and whatever. So yeah, it was one of those where I was getting some questions from somebody, like, what's your date of birth? Because you needed that to fill out the form. And like, Curran would come to me and say, hey, so-and-so is asking a question. And so I got a couple of people that were like, I want to do this. I want to like fill out the form and like learn more. So I knew that definitely there was interest. And I had a couple people, weeks later or whatever, would come up to me and say, unfortunately I'm not a match, but they have this process where I can donate to someone else, and then there will be a chain reaction where, if you donate, then this person that you are donating on behalf of can get something from somebody else. Should I do that? And I was like, that's up to you. I was like, listen, like, I can't make that decision. Like, I am very fortunate. I have a big family. Like, this email went out, so I will most likely hopefully find a match. But, and it was interesting where I had two people actually come up to me and say that, like, I'm not a match, but I could do this. And then they're like, but actually only one person could do it. I was like, I'm not telling you who should, like, I'm staying out of that. Really appreciate it. Like, crazy that you would even think to do that. But, kind of, let's sit back and just wait. So yeah, it was one of those where, there's just great humans. Like, it kind of was one of those where it's like, wow, like, it's, I would think if I was on the other side, I would definitely have done the same thing, but who's to say I would have, right? So, but yeah, it was just like, it was really nice to see like the best of people like kind of come out.
Were there any nerves before it went out? Like maybe no one will respond, or maybe
For me, it was more of like, I really don't even want to put this out there.
Yeah.
More of like, I don't want, it was just one of those things where I don't ask for help. So it's like, and it took some, some conversations with the people that wanted to do it. And then finally one day, I talked to my sister, and she was like, why not? Like, what's out? And I was like, all right. So then I finally gave in. But it wasn't really like, I don't think I was expecting anything. Like, I wasn't expecting someone to be a match. Like, so there wasn't really anything.
I wasn't expecting to be a match.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, I'm O positive. Like, there's like, I'm a good match. Like, I'm young.
Yeah.
And very fortunate. But like, I don't think I was expecting anything out of it.
Yeah. Do you know how many people responded to the email?
I mean, I know that based off just going to doctor's visits and kind of poking around, they keep it very separate. So like, I had a transplant coordinator, and the donor would have a transplant. So there's a system in place to kind of avoid that. But I would think there's around 17 to 20 people, which is just insane to me.
And what does that mean to you?
It's unbelievable. Like, the fact that like those, like, I would say strangers to an extent. Like, I've worked here 9.5 years, so like I do have a lot of good relationships. But like, it's an organ donation. Like, it's not a heart, but it is still a major surgery, and it's just it's crazy. It's really, really crazy.
So how did you put this together? How did you figure out who was donating?
Well, that's a story in itself.
Well, the issue was we have two different teams. So I have my team, they're telling me one thing. She has her team, they're telling her one thing. After I got board approval, that was the final step. And then my kidney coordinator decided this is the time to tell her. And I said, okay, I'll wait till after Thanksgiving. So in my mind, I'm thinking she knows there's a match that is approved and is ready to go. That's how it was communicated to me. She doesn't believe me, but that is true. That is the true story. So
I knew nothing.
We used our mutual friend Rachel as the kind of
Conduit.
yes. So they put a fake meeting on the schedule.
Rachel, yeah, I had no idea. Rachel Seiler. I will name names. basically like was like put on a meeting. Hey, I want to talk to you about my career, whatever the thing was. And I was like, okay, sure. Like Wednesday at noon. And then the morning of, she was like, actually, can we push it back a half hour? I was like, sure. I was like, whatever. And then go ahead.
I couldn't think of a way to do this where it wouldn't be like a thing, and I wanted it to be in private. We were not close enough where it was like, let's go to a bar and grab a drink. It wasn't that kind of a relationship. So I sat her down. I gave you something,
Yeah, so
some sort of memento.
the meeting that we had was up on 27, which is actually very close to the commissioner's office, in a room that is like I had never been in before. I was like, oh, there's a conference room back here, cool. And I walk up to it, and it's all glass, so you can see into it, and I see Jen and Rachel sitting there. And I thought they were finishing up. Like, I was just like, I was very confused. I was like, oh, Rachel, I was like, should I come in, whatever? And they're like, yeah, come in. And then you handed me a keychain.
Oh, it was a keychain.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
yeah.
handed that said donor recipient, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I looked at it, I was like, what? I was just very confused.
And then I was like, oh God, she doesn't know. I knew right away something's off. Like, she doesn't know that this is going to the next stage. And I was like, oh God, it was so awkward. I like awkward situations, but that was so awkward. And then you were just telling me about your history, but because she's so headstrong, she was honestly, it felt like you were trying to talk me out of it in a way where you were like, there might be other people. And I was like, okay, I'm still very into doing this. If you feel that way, I'll take a step back.
Yeah.
But then I believe you had a conversation with family, and then it was like, let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the other side, so I knew people were testing. My family was telling me nothing. Like, it wasn't the same as the last time when I was kind of having a conversation. So I do have a half brother who is 11 years younger than me. On the first time, he was never tested because he was 17, 18 years old. My sister was pregnant at the time. So like I had a couple of family members that had not been tested before. So I knew that he had been tested, and it was one of those where he kind of told me he was a match, but then I was like, oh, great. But then it was on the side, they were kind of having discussions of like, my stepmother had been a match before, so she'd donate. And at the end of the day, I was like, that was where my head was. I knew that he was a match, but I didn't know where he was in the testing. So I was very shocked of like, oh, like, okay, great. I might still have a family member. So we had like an honest conversation, and I was like, what's going on? And they were like, honestly, like, we kind of made a decision to like wait for the next one. And I was like, well, that's a decision that you made without discussing me, but which is fine. Like, but it was interesting of like, because they thought I knew as well. Like, it's one of those where I get why a system is built to have, but I still need some insight into what's going on.
It was almost too confidential.
Yeah. But so basically had that conversation with them, and I had another conversation with her and said, are you really in on this? Like, because it's huge. Like, it's a huge decision. Like, we were not close, but listen, you're younger, you're healthy. Like, I'm in.
It's an enticing kidney.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very enticing kidney. And I wasn't on dialysis. I wasn't at the point where I was, my GFR number is 9, which was not good. My doctors kept saying, like, you should be more sick than you are. Yeah. And I really didn't have shortness of breath. Like, the only thing I really had was like loss of appetite, and which was great. I was like, I'm losing weight. But no, it wasn't something that was affecting my day to day. So when she came to me, I was like, all right. And, it was just like, okay, doctors were like, when do you want to do this? I was like, I don't know, January. They're like, oh, we were expecting you to say the end of the season, like, because they know I work here. And I was like, I don't know, like, why not? Let's be preventative. Like, preventative kidney donations are becoming more and more because they don't want people to go on dialysis. And, it's hemodialysis specifically is very draining. Yeah. Peritoneal that I did, I was young, healthy, still working, doing it 4 times a day. But because I wanted to have my life still going. But yeah, it was just one of those where I was like, all right, let's do this as long as, follow her lead.
Did you kind of try to talk her out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you really tried to talk her out of it? It wasn't just kind of?
I mean, I think the weirdest meeting I think I've ever had at the NHL, with Rachel still in the room, mind you. And she was kind of like the moderator, honestly.
She wasn't trying to like back slowly out of the room.
No,
Leave you.
she was diving in.
That's what I
Yeah.
was trying to leave
Yes.
the room.
Yeah, but no, it's just one of those where like it was so taken aback. Like, I was not expecting that conversation that time of that day,
Yeah.
and so it took some time just to like take a step back and be like, okay, like what is the best path forward for both of us?
That's why I wish I told her from the start, just so it was a little bit more on her radar and not just.
Right. Like I knew I needed a kidney, I just didn't know like who it was coming from.
Yeah.
So.
When you go home that day, for example, like, and you're thinking about this person who is tangential to your life, giving you a piece of their body,
Yep.
what does that feel like?
It's, I would say even like numbing a little bit. Like it's one of those where it's like you can't wrap your mind around it. Like my family is like everyone's in healthcare. I'm the only one that's pretty much not. My brother's a nurse, my mom's a nurse, my sister's in healthcare, my stepmother's a NICU nurse. So I knew because I had been through it before, I felt it was more of like, okay, I know what my uncle's recovery was. So not to belittle it, but he did well after surgery. Kidney transplants happen every day, and it's one of the higher, less risk transplants. But it's just like one of those where it was just numbing. Like you can't wrap your mind around that someone went out of their way to do all the testing. Like it is what you said. Like there's a ton of testing.
Yes and no. They do a good job in trying to keep it tight, like do a bunch in one day. You're not just going to the hospital for one thing.
Right. But it's also the hospital's not next to our office.
Yeah, that was the other thing. That's why every time I had an opportunity to get stuff done at a Quest, I would do, because I live on the east side.
Yeah.
And I was like, anything to keep me away from the west side. So you can go to Quest for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's easier than you think it is. I only had to go to the hospital, I think twice before the actual surgery. So it's not, anyone can do it. It's not a big time commitment prior to the surgery.
Yeah. It's just pulling an organ out of your body.
Well, yeah, that too.
So you have this meeting. It's
Yeah.
extremely awkward.
It went so poorly.
She's numb. How are you feeling?
Incredibly uncomfortable, but I also didn't want that to like scare her away from me still doing it, because I still wanted to. But if there was, I also didn't know before this email went out that family members were still in the mix.
Okay.
I thought when this email went out, she was at that stage where she was looking for help somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that wasn't communicated to me by my team. I don't know where the disconnect was, but it felt kind of, I don't know what the word is, but the fact that I trumped all her family members just
Yeah.
because I'm O negative didn't sit right with me, but I didn't know that in that time.
Right.
So there was just miscommunication, disconnect, but it could have been, if I had just told her from the beginning, we probably would have been a lot smoother on this journey, but it happened the way it happened, and it's still.
Yeah. But I think within the conversation, I think within 3 days, we're like, all right, let's do this.
Oh no, she
it was
I think let me know almost a day late. It was quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround.
very efficient.
Did you ever have second thoughts during this process?
Not at all.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Like something just clicked when you got the phone call. I like started crying, not because I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. More just, it felt like the right thing to do. If you have this ability, and there's more people than I thought who have O negative. So it's just the fact that you can give this to anyone, regardless if you know someone, just felt like the right thing to do. And I know that sounds crazy, but no, I had no second thoughts.
Yeah.
Only when we had that meeting and things got awkward.
So you say, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
What was that conversation like? Was it matter of fact? Was it emotional? Was it?
I'm trying to remember.
I mean, it was over the phone.
Oh, it was over the phone.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't have another because
It did seem kind of matter of factly at that point. It was like,
I
let's
said
do
as
this.
long as you are like, I'll follow your lead. Like
Right.
if you're really in, I'm not going to second guess you again. I'm not going to push you off of it. But yeah, like let's
And
do
I
it.
wanted to make sure above anything that she didn't have to go on dialysis. So I just wanted to know, does this need to be done sooner than later, or do we have time? I was more keen on doing it in the winter just because of the downtime.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be stuck inside during the middle of the winter than doing it in, say, June.
Yeah.
But
sense.
so timing worked out very well.
Yeah.
So January comes around. What is the date of the surgery? And just tell me how that process happens for both of you.
Yeah, so we both were like, okay, we're gonna, do this, and then your coordinator, basically, the transplant center knows of all what's going on, so they're gonna schedule it, and they said the earliest we can do it is, and I think this was the end of December. They're like January 28th, and I was like, does that work for you? Does that work for me? Okay, and it was more of like, they say let her like decide the date because she's the one giving life. And you can.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that power. It felt strange that I'm the one dictating when things were getting done. So I just wanted to confirm with her. I wasn't making a decision without telling her first because that felt weird because you had a journey ahead of you too. So yeah, we kind of came to the decision together, but yes. I said the sooner the better, let's go.
Yeah. So January 28th,
Yep.
2025.
Okay. So just take me through that day.
It was early.
It was very early.
We didn't see each other. I got there, I think, a little bit earlier. They got me inundated, did their thing, type of thing. I didn't see her. I was just carted into a room. It felt very, I've had surgeries before, but it just felt kind of out of body because I'm not sick. Like, I'm not in there for a specific reason. And that's why it's so weird.
Yeah.
But it also, everything went well I have no memory. I was out of it.
Yeah.
I was on a lot of
Yeah,
drugs.
I got up there probably like 6:30 a.m., so pretty early. Surgery, basically they say, she'll go in first, you'll go in an hour later. Different, not the same room. But yeah, it was one of those where my mother, my sister drove me there, but my mother met us there, was like, where is she? I was like, I don't know. Don't see her. So you go into just to prep for surgery, anesthesiologist comes by, all that stuff. And then I think the weirdest thing is I walk into the room and then lay down on the.
I did too. I walked in. Wasn't like carted on a bed.
Nope.
It's like, okay.
Yeah,
You were sicker. I wasn't sick.
No, but that's why I think it's the weirdest thing. I said that to my mother. She goes, how would you get in? I go, by like a wheelchair or something. I don't know. The bed that you're going to, I don't know.
Yeah, that was shocking.
So, but yeah, and my family, tons of family there, they waited around and they said it would be about a 3-hour surgery. And I went in probably around 10:30. I think you went in at 9:30. And then I was back in recovery by like 2. And then we waited I didn't see you at all.
We were on different floors.
We were on different floors. And then it took a while to get a bed. So I was in recovery until I think 4 a.m. You went up earlier. They gave you a
Yeah, I
bed
think
earlier.
around 9 p.m.
Yeah, because the way they do it is there's a transplant floor. So you're getting everyone gets a private room. It's like, you're like kind of in a hotel, but not.
Worst hotel ever.
But so they knew they were just waiting for someone to leave. So we ended up getting there and then, basically just hopefully go to sleep without getting poking product every hour, but that happens. So
How long was it till you saw each other?
the next
Yeah, I
day,
think the next day.
PT.
Oh yeah, well, that was the thing. They come in the next morning, get out of bed, let's go. They want you up and walking right away because the gas pain, because they have to pump your stomach so that they can see. So you're just full of gas, and the only way to get it out is to go walking. Yeah, that was a way to wake up. And then I guess, our PT lady, I came into her room to see her that morning. It was early.
Yeah, we were right next door. We were, and then so the PT was like, part of her walk was coming into my room to say hi, and I was like, oh hey, what's going on?
She was like eating. I had no appetite.
Yeah.
I don't think I ate much when I was in the hospital.
Yeah,
But
I was in much better shape than you were. Yeah, I was. Cause
roles were reversed.
Yeah, because like she said, it's what's the type of surgery that you had? It was, she wasn't really cut up, and it was like
Arthroscopic.
Oh, laparoscopic.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
laparoscopic.
Laparoscopic.
So that's why they pumped the gas and tried it. Mine was incision, place it, all that stuff. My mother's probably like, it's not really all it is. But yeah, so my recovery, I didn't have as much pain, but I had pain, but not as much. But yeah, I kind of had been through it. Everyone's like, well, is it the same as before? I was like, that was 10 years ago. I don't know what I felt like, but I know that I had felt good. And then our families came, and I think the next day, my family bombarded you in your room.
That's the thing. When our families met, she was the one who had to come to my room. I wasn't going to see her. She's the one standing. I could barely get it. I don't even really remember it.
Yeah.
I was so loopy. But, yep, roles definitely reversed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
You were
and-
sicker than you thought you were, I think.
Oh, yes.
And that was your, and I think it was also probably adrenaline.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I was definitely sicker. It was one of those where within 2 weeks, like, I had appetite was like, I was like, oh, yeah, no, I definitely, like, I was going through my day to day. It's not, I wasn't like losing breath, all that stuff. But, so yeah, so definitely, and then they kicked you out.
They kicked me out
Yeah.
of the hospital.
Like within 2 days.
They did not kick. They did not kick me out. They literally said, "Take all the time you need." I wanted to leave. It was more. I thought I had it in my head. I'd stay one night and I would want to be back in my bed. I was not ready. I took advantage. I stayed 2 nights. I honestly could have stayed 3 nights, but you just want to be in your own space, in your own bed. You're not showering. It's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one kicked me
But yeah,
out.
we had the surgery on Tuesday, and I think she left on Thursday, and I left on Friday.
And the funniest thing is, I'm getting ready to go to say goodbye.
Yeah.
She's not even in her room. She's out walking around. I'm like, I can barely stand. She's walking the halls. I didn't even get to say goodbye.
That's right.
But I wasn't waiting. I wanted to go.
When you guys saw each other after this, were you too loopy, or was there any like, did you think through like what you'd both been through, or have you thought about that since?
I don't think in that moment I was thinking that
Yeah.
deeply.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll be just walking to work and I'll think about and remember what happened. Because it happened 2 months ago, but it feels like it happened a year ago. And I just get emotional thinking about the journey, and it meant something to me. I know it meant something different for you, but it's also upsetting because I don't think that this is talked about enough. I did not know the need for how many people are on that UNOS list for any, and then all of a sudden after, my TikTok feed was feeding me people begging for kidneys on TikTok. So now that I see it from a different point of view, I have a different perspective. It's something I did not put 2 seconds into my mind of ever even considering, that I wish it was discussed more, talked about more, just on people's radar more,
Yeah.
because it was not on mine.
Yeah, I mean, when I had my transplant 10 years ago, there was a guy I was actually close with in college that needed a transplant at the same time, and then I knew somebody else. So it's just one of those where, you buy a red car, you see a red car, to your point, it just starts coming up. And yeah, it's very common, all ages. I say Selena Gomez and I and Sarah Hyland, we've had 2 transplants. And I think, celebrities like that, it kind of, but yeah, to me, it's still, the fact that 2 people have, given me an organ is insane. It's still mind blowing to me. I call her a superhero. It's just the fact that
Sweet.
yeah. And I said to her boss, you better treat her right because she's a superhero.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly, and they have, I think. But yeah, it's one of those where it's because I've been sick, because I went through it, I may not. It's not appreciation, but it's just I kind of needed it. So not that I expected it, but it's just wow, now I'm healthy. And it's still kind of crazy to think oh, it's her organ in my body. I think it's more of also not just her, but just the amount of people that were oh yeah, I'll get tested, upset that they couldn't donate.
Yeah.
And it just shows that there's really good people still in this world. And yeah, it's just, it's part of my life now, so.
Jen, when you said it meant something to me, can you put into words?
It's hard. I think that's what it is. I think when we decided to do this, I was I don't have a good answer for why I did this. I don't know how to explain it, but to me, it just felt like this is something that you should do. I mean, I had 3 surgeries in 4 years in my 20s, but I'm healthy. They were unrelated to each other, but I didn't need somebody to do those surgeries. I could just go in and not think about it. It weighed on me that she had to rely on a complete other human being to feel healthy again, and I can't imagine what that feels like.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is also, I've been fortunate.
Yeah.
The fact of how many matches I had the first time, the amount that I had another person unrelated to me, both my stepmother and her. And then there may be other people out there, it's just, there's not many people that are that fortunate. Like, I come from a huge family. Like, you know, I don't take that for granted. But yeah, it's just like, why am I the one that, you know, got easily? Like, this was easy, right? Like, wasn't waiting. I was able to be preventative. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have that agency. And, you know, luckily I live in New York, like great hospitals. So that's where it's like, you know, my family's in healthcare too. So it's just kind of like, this is what should be happening if everything goes well. I also have a mother that worked in the ER, like I said, and they know medical fields. Like, there's not a lot of people they're just lost. Yeah. And I was able to go to her with questions and whatnot. But yeah, it's just, I'm so fortunate that it's unbelievable.
What would you like people to know about kidney donation and the need for kidneys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the donors, of course, but like, there's a lot of people in need. Dialysis is not fun. Yes, it's something that could keep you alive, but hemo, specifically dialysis, drains you. You have to go 5 days a week sometimes for hours at a time. You can't have a life. Peritoneal dialysis is a little bit easier, but again, I did it for 5 months the first time 10 years ago, and I would have to do it right when I woke up, at lunch, before I left work, and then again before I went to bed. And it was an hour-long period. It has to be, you know, you have to be in a really safe space to do it, all this stuff. Like, I had a really good job that took care of me with that, but I was carrying diacylate bags into MSG to watch the Big East tournament, to then go to, my sister was pumping at the time, I was doing dialysis. We went to like the med tent in MSG, and they were like, yeah, you could do it here. Like, that's when they say, like, sporting events, if you have a medical need, bring it in. Like, I was that person.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think at the time it was just like part of life, but like, people have to do this for years at a time. And you know, I kind of told the story before camera here, but like, I was getting a new license, and somebody next to me, the question was asked, do you want to be a donor? And they were like, I don't know, like, talking to themselves, the black market, all that stuff. I go, I got a kidney 10 years ago. Like, okay, I'll sign up. Like, it's just one of those where I don't think, if out of sight, out of mind. And there's a ton of people, not just kidneys, of course, livers, hearts, lungs. Like, the floor that we were on had all of those transplants. Like, when you see it in your face, it's like, yeah, there's people that are suffering out there. And it's, you know, if kidney is like the easiest donation, it's not easy by any means, but somebody that has to make that choice. But there's just more opportunities, I would say.
And what would your message be to people who are either, you know, who got an email like this, or know someone, or who are trying to check that box of, do I want to open myself up to this?
Just have an open mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I said I've never considered doing something like this before, but when I found out I had the ability to do it, it just changed everything. I encourage people to find out their blood type, because that was a game changer for this. That's why it came together the way it did. Yes, it was hard, but I look back on it and I don't regret it for a second. Especially now when we have the ability to work from home so often, there's ways around it. If you have like a good caretaker, a home where it's comfortable, like, that's enough. That's all you need to get through it. And now I can look back on it and see it from a different point of view than from the beginning. And it's, I don't know, I wish more people just even considered it.
What do you see when you now look at each other?
Myself.
I mean, no, just superhero, like selfless, basically. Like, you know.
I mean, she came back to work shortly after I did. So the fact that that went that quickly, that she just got healthier that fast,
yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Watched a lot of TV, but I was back
Yeah,
working from
well.
home 4 weeks later, and then
Yeah.
back in the office.
That's amazing.
I like to say we were on two different journeys, but they were similar-ish.
Yeah. But I also think the support of the NHL also.
Oh
has
yeah,
been unreal.
everyone
Like,
here,
Yeah.
so supportive.
Yeah.
I think that's what encouraged me, was the amount of support I was getting from here.
Right. Without, like, if somebody asked me, like, I did not name names, I was like, it's her story to tell, like, you know, if she wants
I
to.
know.
Um,
I don't know, I felt weird telling people in advance of it, because we work at the same company. I don't want to make her feel some type of way.
yeah.
But I know you're an open book about it. I mean, you'll talk to anyone about it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I had one before, so it's not a secret that like I have this issue. I go for infusions once a month. So like my team like knew that I was going to have to need this eventually. I also need to say to them, by the way, I might be out for a while when this does come to fruition. But like to me, it wasn't. I didn't have to say who the donor was. Like it was just like somebody, a coworker, and if they feel that they want to come out and say it, like that's their story to tell. So
Here I am telling it.
it's true though. No.
Are you friends now? I mean, how has your relationship changed?
Now that we're back at work,
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to make her feel like anything's owed. I did this free will. No one pressured me.
yeah.
It was a decision I made. I think now that I know, I maybe have even considered it anonymously, but it was just that the email was sent out. Thank God it was. And, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we knew each other before, but now we talk more.
Yeah.
Like we have,
Yeah.
so. But yeah, at the end of the day, and you say like, there's nothing you need. Like, I don't think there's anything I could do
Yeah.
that like,
Yeah, no.
you literally gave me life. Like, you're like my mother. Like, what else can I do? So yeah, it's just like whatever. I think just building that relationship is what we can do moving forward.
And so this is at least the third time that this has happened in the hockey world in the last 6 years. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know this.
That's crazy.
Do you know that?
I know the one. I know the
The
story.
Columbus one or the Pittsburgh one?
The Pittsburgh one. I know both of them. Yes.
A Pittsburgh fan held up a sign at a Penguins game, and eventually another
Wow.
Pittsburgh fan gave them a kidney.
That's insane.
And a reporter in Columbus got a kidney from someone who works for the Blue Jackets. Again, same, like, had crossed paths, but weren't friends. I'm just like, when you hear that people in the hockey world, I mean, I guess in the world in general, but in the hockey world, are willing to do this, what does that mean? And what does that say about sort of this environment?
I mean, you hear about it on the team side, right?
Yeah.
Their families. Like, I was the Kings yesterday. Like everyone, like you live your life throughout the season together. And I think the league's a little different, but at the end of the day, we're still like we've been here a long time, right? Like we've known each other. You walk around the halls, everyone knows Jen. Everyone kind of knows me, like at least like with a head nod. Not meaning that, but it's one of those where I remember like I was bringing a new hire around just to introduce. And she was like, you are literally saying hi to everyone. I think it's just like people are aware. Like we have a big company, but everyone kind of knows someone from whatever. I think the events help that, but I think it's just like, people in sports in general are like good humans. So I just think that it shows that like, we're kind of open-minded, I would say, is back to your point of like,
Also, who do you spend more time with than your coworkers?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Especially when we're in 5 days a week. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't spend more time than the people you work with.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, is there anything else that you think that people should know, both about what you've gone through, the decisions you've made?
I mean, for me, it just goes down to there's a lot of people that are suffering probably quietly. So one, be open-minded, don't judge people. There's a lot of hidden sick illnesses. Mine was one of them. I looked healthy. And two, I mean, yes, it's a major surgery, but people do this a lot and they are healthy afterwards, like on both sides. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think I said it earlier, but an open mind.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew I wanted to do this until it was put into my lap.
Yeah.
So you just don't know you might be interested in doing something like this until it's right in front of you. I also think there are people out there who do this anonymously. Like they don't even know who they're giving their own kidney to. So yes, this is a great story and all that, but there are people who do this without even ever meeting them.
Yeah.
So there are people out there who are just thinking of others. It's a harsh world out there. This is like a little gift. I also don't need it. I can live a completely normal life with just one kidney.
Yeah.
And there were so minimal risks involved that was just like sold.
How much thought have you given to the fact that you will probably have to go through this again?
Yeah. I mean, I was unfortunate that I was young when this happened. And actually, as you get older, you have less ability to get matches just because there's somebody younger than you that most likely will go up on the UNIS list and all that. So yeah, it's definitely a thought in the back of my mind. I mean, we keep saying, my NP is like, let's reach for 20 years. Let's hope this lasts you the rest of your life. I'm only 40 years old. I'll be 41 in a couple of months here. So yeah, I'm gonna probably need one. Like I said, my brother hopefully may be someone in the future, but who knows? If 15 years, circumstances may change. But yeah, it's something that's always in the back of my mind. Like I said, I'm doing, I'm still on immunosuppressants, and it's just my life now. But you kind of try not. I'm not someone that is like has anxiety and thinks about pessimistically. Some things I'm pessimistic, but not on aspects of life. And I think just because I've been through it twice, I understand how it will all work out in the end.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like we should talk about the fact that you do have 4 kidneys right now.
I do have 4 kids.
Because I feel like that is something that not
Show
everybody knows.
It's my fun fact.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So I have 4 kidneys. The original 2 are in the back. But they're really just connected there. Not connected, I should say, floating around. And then when you get a transplanted kidney, it goes in the front, so it can be connected to the ureter. And then basically, since they put in the right my first time, and then they basically just leave it there, and they put the next one on my left side. They don't take it out because it's more invasive. There could be more risks of, bacteria or whatever going in, infection. Sorry. So I have 4 kidneys, and they're just hanging out there. 3 of them do nothing, kind of like your appendix, I guess. But yeah, so it's a very unique thing. I actually was at a conference last week, and I was talking to someone, and they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, they just hang out. I didn't know this before. Yeah. My mother even was like, "So what?" She's a nurse, like I said. And when we were going through, and they were saying where it was going to go, and she was like, "Wait, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, when you put me in a machine now, it's just they light up."
And the number 4 is working well.
Very well, yes, yeah.
Can I just say, this better last a minimum of 20 years.
Yes, it's knock on wood. That's the goal. So as you compare it to last 10 years ago, the creatinine level is the level of your kidney function, that and the GFR. And before, it's supposed to be between 0.51, give you all medical terms. It never got below, I think, 1.7 last time after surgery, and then it kind of stayed there. I'm at 1. So it's very good. And I will continue to get blood work and keep an eye on it. But yes, everything's been great. All the numbers are looking good, and I'm feeling really good. So
That's great. Drinking
yes,
all the water you want.
You got a good kidney. Yes, all the water. All the water. So yes.
Excellent. Is there anything else I should know about the process that we didn't cover? Anything else a message or any information that you think people should know?
No, I mean, there's a number of foundations out there. National Kidney Foundation. One of my friends is actually on the board of one of them, which is kind of related, but not a little unrelated. And there's they take donations just as much as Hockey Fights Cancer, of course. Let's maybe start a fun NHL on kidneys. I'm kidding, but yeah, there's just more opportunities to get involved and learn more, maybe about the process through that.
I think mine would just be keep an open mind. You're stronger than you think you are. This might appeal to somebody. That's what I'm hoping happens. Somebody hears the story and just feels something inside that they know, this could change somebody's life. And just knowing she's healthy, that's why we did this. And I'm just grateful it worked out so well.
Yes, you're the best.
Thanks.